Hello everyone, we finally get the Ump sisters on the global first year anniversary. I know a lot of us have been waiting for them for the longest time and here they finally arrive. Lena and Leva will complete the full electric roster, and in this video we'll specifically go over Leva. Lena video will be coming soon. Many of you have a lot of saved up pools and we are gonna get a lot more during this anniversary patch. So let's see how can you invest them wisely. How many Leva dupes do you need? We'll check out her skill kit, team synergy and dupe improvements to figure out what's her best pulling breakpoints are for your account. So without further ado, let's get started. Starting with the TLDR like always, Leva is the electric hypercarry DPS wielding an SMG weapon. She can deal both single target and AoE damage, and she is what brings the electric team together. She doesn't have much utility in her kit, it's all damage. And all of her electric teammates have the required utilities to help in setting up the stage for her to excel at her role. That's how the full electric comp works, so she is very essential if you want to play the electric team and actually do some damage. She cannot perform at her best outside the electric team, as without the setups her damage output will suffer. Similarly, without her the electric team pretty much suffers in their damage output. You get the picture, she is meant to be played in a full electric team. Her kit is kinda complicated, there's a lot going on, but you need to mainly know about two of her core mechanics. She does more damage to stability broken enemies via a buff called Overclocking Strike that converts any additional stability damage she does into electric damage. So you wanna ideally always use her to attack stability broken enemies. That's why she usually goes last in her team rotation so that others can break the enemy stability before she attacks. Especially Jiangyu should help massively with that. The second thing is maintaining stacks of another buff called Superconductive Code, which basically boosts her crit rate, crit damage and attack, everything. It can stack up to 4 stacks max, but there will be skills that will consume these stacks and you wanna gain the stacks back fast to maintain as many stacks, ideally all 4 stacks most of the time, so she deals the most damage. That's the main things you need to keep in mind when playing her. Now I mentioned she is very essential in electric team and I would say a must have, but how many pulls do you need for her then? Well, her being the hypercarry like all other hypercarries, her damage numbers are broken at V6. So ideally you want to use V6 Leva in your electric team. For F2Ps then, I would say V0 Leva is enough. When you can borrow a whale's Leva, just borrow their V6 Leva, and when you can't, use your own V0 Leva. V1 is a good early breakpoint with a good damage boost that you can definitely go for, but I wouldn't say is a must. Better stay low investment at V0 and use borrowed V6 Leva wherever possible. You do not need her signature weapon at all. At V0, the pre-SSR SMG Swarog performs equal if not better on her. Swarog can be easily maxed, so yeah, that's the go-to on her. We will face a problem though when we wanna use Lena and Leva together, as we can't give both of them Swarogs, can we? Can we even get 2 Swarogs? I don't think so, right? But yeah, if that is the case and you want another SSR SMG, you can actually go for a signature as well. Okay, too long of a TLDR, let's now check out her actual skill kit. Let me start with her ultimate. She does AoE electric damage at a 60% attack multiplier around herself in 7 tiles range and generates voltage tiles that last 3 turns. Voltage tiles do implant electric weakness, and when an enemy in it receives AoE damage, they take fixed damage and the tiles effect goes away. If it's electric or hydro AoE attacks, they do more fixed damage. Anyway, her ult also gives her the overclocking strike buff we talked about, the one to turn extra stability damage into electric damage for 3 turns. After attacking with her ultimate, she can use a new skill, Superconductive Strike. You can only use this skill after using her ult. Superconductive Strike is a melee type electric damage in a 7 tile range. It also generates voltage tiles within a 1 tile radius around the enemy for 3 turns, and it also consumes all the superconductive code stacks, the other mechanic we talked at the beginning. The damage multiplier and stability damage of this attack is based on how many stacks it consumed, as you can see below. You would always want to have 4 stacks to consume for the best results, clearly. Also something to remember is that her ult takes all of her convection index, which we need to gain back to ult again. Her skill 1 is a 7/3 area AoE electric damage equivalent to 120% attack in one direction. It applies negative charge for 2 turns and generates voltage tiles for 3 turns, simple enough. Her skill 2 is a 7 tile ranged 3 tile radius AoE that does 100% attack multiplier electric damage. It does 30% increased damage and 1 more stability damage against enemies with negative charge. And lastly, her passive. She gains 1 stack of superconductive code when a turn starts or when she triggers the voltage tile reaction. When Leva has positive charge, her electric damage is increased by 10%. But most importantly, when an enemy in her attack range is inflicted with negative charge, Leva does a support attack doing 60% attack and 1 stability damage equivalent electric damage. The support attacks give her 1 confidence index and she can do 2 support attacks per turn. At V0 this is how she gains back the confidence index used by her ult, so she needs 3 rounds to gain back 6 confidence index for another ult. That's her skill kit at V0, and now we'll look at her best Vertebrae breakpoints. Of course, V6 is significantly better and the best target, but let me also touch on a few lower middle breakpoints. Like V1. This is the earliest best dupe breakpoint if you have the extra few resources. The main advantage is that it gives her 1 more support attack per turn, meaning 1 more confidence index, so your ult can cycle 1 turn faster in every 2 turns. This, plus the extra damage boost when on positive charge, results in a good improvement with almost 40% damage boost from V0, so you can definitely go for it if you can. V3 adds defense ignore to superconductive strike and greatly improves her damage from that. Also adds 1 more superconductive code stack gain. This is pretty nice too, but not that significant for me to recommend going to this point and stopping. I would definitely recommend stopping at V1 unless you are going for V6. Both of her V5 and V6 give her the most damage boost. V5 buffs her overclocking strike and V6 allows her to use superconductive strike after every skill, massively boosting her damage. Before V6 you could only use that skill after ult, but you can do that after any skill at V6. It also gives 1 more superconductive code stack at the start of a turn, so yes, V6 is pretty OP. If you have saved up for her V6, nice, otherwise try to borrow a V6 Leva whenever you can. About her weapon choices, as mentioned before, Swarog with the support attack related passive fits really well for Leva. It's free, you probably have it maxed, just give it to her, perfect. Her signature one is comparative to Swarog, not much better. It does give electric damage boost to enemies with negative charge or if they are stability broken, both of which should be effective for Leva. So if your Swarog is already occupied on another unit, probably Lena, you can go for Leva's signature. That will not be a bad investment. And if you are one of the 10 people who pulled for Zhao's signature weapon Juggernaut, then that will be a third good option for Leva as well. Moving on to her build, by this point I think you all know it, you go for either Phase Strike, which you should probably have a good set farmed for, or Electric Boost set for a more dedicated option with a very slight advantage. Her stat priorities are also the standard attack percentage then flat attack, followed by crit rate and then crit damage. You wanna go for 4000 plus attack, 70% crit rate and about 135% crit damage for an endgame full build. Her best in slot fixed keys will be Fox's Smile for increased damage to stability broken enemies, always prepared to start the battle with overclocking strike buff, and Mature Aplomb to also start the battle with 2 superconductive code stacks. Honestly, her fixed keys are all very good and applicable. When you are at V6, you don't need the last one, instead use Play It by Ear for enemy buff dispels. And also if you don't have Andoris for negative charge implanting, you gotta use Rational Reaction to do that yourself. As for the common keys besides her own, she can use Dosebnaya, Ulrid and Feblis common keys, or any other attack percent and crit percent keys can also work. You definitely want to max her remolding core as a hypercarry. As for the flowers, you will prioritize any attack damage boost, electric boost, boss damage boost, critical damage boost or stability damage boosts, etc. For her team synergy, we already know she is the main character of the electric team, so her best partners in the team will be her sister Lena, of course, and then Andoris and Jiangyu. 5th slot is a flex slot by all means. A V4 plus Mosin Nagant will keep it all electric. Belka is not very suitable as she can mess up the negative charge implant timings for Leva's support attacks, but otherwise Xinia is always the go-to F2P option, and then there's Yuhi too, especially V3 Yuhi for a whale option. Her skill rotation does differ a lot at different vertebra levels, but always do remember that you wanna use Leva last in the team. Usually it goes Lena, Jiangyu, Andoris and then Leva. At V0 her ult cycles every 3 turns, so here's the skill rotation for that. At V1 her ult cycle becomes better every 2 turns, so now she can just go like this. Her skill 2 is not usually used here. At V6 we can use the extra skill every turn after every normal skill, so it becomes something like this then. That is all for Leva's kit and how she works. So what's my final opinion? If you want to play electric team, you need Leva. She is the majority damage source of the electric comp, so you gotta get her at least V0 for F2Ps. Unless you are completely ignoring electric, I'm not talking about that, you know you are skipping, so no point there. But yeah, in general for F2Ps, I never recommend higher dupes on hypercarries since it never feels worth unless you really V6 them, so just have her V0 and borrow V6 when you can, like I said before. Next one is gonna be V1 for the slight pump in value. For those that can't really go for V6 but still want to make her good since you have been saving for her, this is a good point to stop. Maybe you can go for a signature weapon then. give Swarog to someone else and get Leva her own gun, she deserves it. And lastly, I wouldn't really recommend stopping anywhere in the middle, just V6 her, that's it. Yeah, and that's about it all. That concludes our review of Leva. Let me know how many pulls you saved up for her and how many did it actually take to pull her, or are you skipping and saving for someone else? In any case, if you have enjoyed this video and found it helpful, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. Also hit the new hype button, that's helpful too. And as always, if you want to be a part of this channel's community, you have the option to join the channel membership or even send a super thanks. I really appreciate all of the support I'm receiving lately. Love you all. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more Girls Frontline content. I'll catch you later. Goodbye.